1 second. Excuse me, 1 second. All right. Get my phone out. Double check and make sure y'all can hear me.
Listen.
All right. All right. Do a little mic check. Let's see. Do a little mic check. Let's see. All right. Seem like I'm good, man. Do a little mic check. Let's see. All right. See. All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Ruach HaKodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone. I want to say Shalom to all the brothers, of course, the few sisters pursuing this truth and sincerity. All right, may the blessing of election be upon your house. I got a little testimony. The brother Benaiah, he reminded me about it. A lot of times when the Lord does stuff for you, it kind of, you might not think nothing of it. You're like, oh, brother, what you talking about? So you know how with children, their parents set up a bunch of parameters for them to be protected, for them to be good, for them to be provided for. And a lot of times the kid is just being a kid. They don't even realize all the parameters the Lord has set in place, or their parent has set in place for them to be protected, for them to be watched after, looked after. And I was guilty of that this past week. At the end of camp, we usually close out. Brothers to give words of encouragement, elders to give words of encouragement, things to watch out for, or announcements for the camp. And just so happens that this time, Elder Ariella asked, hey, any brothers got any testimonies? And I was thinking, I was like, damn, well, we had the snowstorm here in Texas because it snowed here recently. Texas doesn't have the infrastructure. So the grid wasn't strong enough for particular parts of the town that I live in for it to uphold the power. In my whole neighborhood, the power went out. Okay? Only reason I know this is because when I went to the grocery store, some of the people in my neighborhood, some of the neighbors, and I'm fairly new to this neighborhood. We just got in this house, and I saw people, kind of looking at me, and I was like, this one guy walked up to me, this older Edomite man. He says, yeah, man, it's been tough the past few days, and I was like, I didn't know that they didn't have power, so I was like, yeah, it's been pretty cold, He said, yeah, you're the only one with power in the neighborhood. And I said, what? I said, it threw me off because I'm like, I don't know this man. How does he know? How you know I had power? You know what I mean? What, people didn't have power? He was like, yeah, the whole neighborhood. Everybody's power went out. We had to go up to the leasing office and we charge our phones. And your house was the only one with lights. You had your porch lights on. You're that house in the back with the you knew where I stayed and everything. So it's just like, damn. The neighborhood was pretty quiet during the time. I just figured people had left because a lot of the businesses had closed down. So I figured people just kind of went to families' houses or people just weren't home. But we were the only house in the whole neighborhood with power over that 48 hours. Because the power grid in my area wasn't functioning properly. And I mentioned that after camp, when the Elder Ariella said, hey, anybody got any testimonies? And I was like, yeah, I had power, I guess. And my whole neighborhood went out. I guess I was the only one with power. And I was just like, it wasn't like a big deal to me. I just was like kind of like, oh, that's pretty neat. The Lord looked out. But the Lord look out so much, you don't want to get in the spirit of where you're unappreciative. But the Lord about to look out for us even in exponentially greater ways than that. But this was just kind of like a foreshadowing of the provision and the protection the Lord is going to have over those who fear Him. You see? So the brother Benai hit me up and reminded me about what happened. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump into this lesson. All right, I'm going to get the account in Goshen, because that's the account the brother mentioned to me. And he said, that's like Goshen. I was like, damn, you're right. So let's go. Bear with me real quick while I pull it up. I know it's in Exodus. If I'm not mistaken, was it the third plague? Okay, let me see here. It's in Exodus 10. It was the ninth plague. Okay. It's the ninth plague. All right. So let's go to Exodus 10 and 21 real quick. Pull it up here. Exodus 10 and 21, it reads, And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. So this wasn't just a regular blackout. This was a supernatural darkness from on high that brought terror over the people. This was something much different than the regular, blackout or something like that. And that's going to happen here on a great scale as well, man, here in Babylon the Great, in America. In the book of Amos, it tells you, woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord, for the day of the Lord is darkness and not light. And that's going to be literal and physical. You understand? It's going to be both. So it continues on here. Start the top again. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings, and they were dwelling in Goshen. Okay? So, that's the account that came to the brother's mind immediately. The things written aforetime are written for our learning, man. And the Lord said He's going to outdo the deliverance from Egypt in the book of Jeremiah. So the deliverance and the things that He does for us in our time it's going to make that look like nothing, man. People aren't even going to mention. I said it's going to look like nothing because scriptures say people aren't even going to mention our deliverance from Egypt. They're going to talk about the deliverance from the North Country. Let me get that really quick so you know what I'm talking about for those who don't know. Jeremiah, it's either 15 or 16. Let me go check. It should be at the bottom here. Hmm, 16. Yeah, Jeremiah 16 and 14. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, that first deliverance, that first Passover. But the Lord liveth, verse 15, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north. And this is the land of the north, all right? The scriptures often give you, hints as to what it's talking about. All right? The scriptures talk about us being delivered from the west. And here it gives you the north. Combine those two together, you got the northwest hemisphere. All right? America. All right? But the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither He had driven them, because we've been scattered unto every nation under heaven. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. So the Lord is going to set us back in the Holy Land. It's not going to be via paperwork or the Balfour Declaration. It's not going to be in that fashion. So there's another strike to the people who are calling themselves the Jews in the Holy Land. All right, they fit the prophecy in Ezekiel 36:5. Okay, verse 16, it says, "Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them." And right now we're in the process of fishing. That's what the prophets are doing. But that has an expiration date. Okay, it has a cutoff point. Because even here it tells you that the fishers aren't going to be fishing. This is a transition into hunters. All right, let's go back. We already read Exodus 21 through 23. Okay, but that light that was over Goshen, it was a protective sign for his covenant people, for the people that he's dealing with, that he has a relationship with. And the elect of the nation of Israel are the only ones in our time who are nurturing their relationship with Yahweh Shem Yahushua. So the judgment that's getting ready to play out in the earth, yeah, it's gonna affect everybody. People are gonna be in the midst of it, but it's selective, okay? Because there are gonna be those who are hidden in the day of the Lord's anger, like it talks about in Zephaniah 2 and 3. Let's go there really quick. So there are going to be those who are, and I want to get that word hid. I never got it before. Some's telling me to look that word up in Zephaniah 2 and 3. But I'm going to start at 1, just to bring it all home. It says, "Gather yourselves together. Yeah, gather together, O nation not desired." The nation not desired, of course, is the nation of Israel. We're the ones under the curses. We're the people that are looked at as a bastard nation. All right? A bastard in a society doesn't have an inheritance. All right? They're just kind of in the way. And to most people, when they look at the nation of Israel, we're in the way, all right? Unless we're making money for another nation. If we're not doing that, it's like, scram, get out of here. Unless an agenda needs to be forwarded, okay? But we don't have an inheritance with this world, so we're looked at as bastards, okay? Verse 2, Zephaniah 2 and 2. "Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as a chaff," because this place is going to be burnt with fire, "before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you." Zephaniah 2 and 3. "Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment." Of course, the nation of Israel. We're the people under the curses. And the curses don't get lifted until the kingdom of heaven is established upon the return of our Lord. You go to Zephaniah 22 and 3 to prove that. All right, it talks about, "And then there shall be no more curse." Okay, "Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger." All right. So we desire to be hid as all the calamities are taking place. Okay. Let's look up this word. It's H5641 for hid. Sathar. It says to hide oneself, to be hidden, to be concealed. To hide carefully, to be hidden, concealed. All right. Go down here. It says be absent, be close, conceal, hide oneself. To keep secret. All right, surely. And in a sense, we're going to be hidden from a lot of the perils, from a lot of the conditions that a lot of other people suffer. We're going to witness it. We're going to be in the midst of it. But for those who are under the umbrella, under the jurisdiction of Yahweh Shai, there are going to be many things that we only witness and we don't experience per se. While the rest of the world, man, they're going to be catching hell at a different level than those who fear. Okay, now there's going to be some people, brothers, who are maybe martyrs, but I don't think this is going to be like the other times that we were under siege. Speaking as a man at this point, I think the Lord is going to deliver a lot of people to where it's evident that, whoa, the Lord is with these people that specifically believe this. We're about to win, you know? And that's been the spirit on many of the brothers lately, just to emphasize, yo, we about to win, bro. We brothers are going through, ailments, different things in the world, but there's this feeling underlying that's like, yo, we're about to win. We can see it. It feels like you can almost touch it. The Lord ain't have us doing all this for nothing. We're the men that didn't push gimmicks in the forefront of our ministry. We're the men that, in sincerity, have been about the Lord's business. There's so many opportunities for brothers to have, you know, made money, made their condition better with the knowledge that we have. We've never done the Congress. We never done y'all like that. That's never been our MO. You can't say that for every Israelite group. We're strictly about warning the people, preparing the flock for what's to come. In sincerity, we're strictly about telling the truth, regardless of, even if it makes us unpalatable to the world. We understand that, hey, what we teach isn't going to be palatable to the world. A lot of these groups, they try to tweak little things. They try to put things out there in the forefront of their ministry for people that are of a carnal mindset to easily transition into their ministry. But we don't give a fuck about numbers. The Lord don't give a fuck about numbers. Bro, we're dealing, excuse, my language. I'm going to use harsh language sometimes. That's me. The Lord doesn't need a big, grandiose numbers of people. We're talking about the same power that destroyed everybody and saved 8 persons during the flood. The Lord don't need a bunch of people to get his job done. In Great Millstone, man, we never been about trying to, gather numbers. We never tailored the doctrine so that it, put a little sugar on top so that it can make people feel good. You either get this truth or you don't. It's the cut and dry. It's a straight shot. No chaser. It's just, this is what it is. And if somebody be of the elect, it's going to resonate with them. Well, I'm going to read verse 3 again. Zephaniah 2 and 3. Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. And that's what we all desire. We desire to be hid in the judgment of this place. We're not trying to build in it. A lot of people are trying to build in it. This is a house set for demolition. If somebody says, hey, you can stay in this house, until the first, but we're going to tear it down on the first, are you going to go spending your paycheck? Which in this parable, the money is your time and energy, your effort. Are you going to go spending your paycheck trying to renovate this house that's set for demolition? You going to go buy furniture from it? No, it's fucking stupid. All right, but only somebody who can see spiritually, has that perspective. All right? Well, a little tangent there. I read that Zephaniah 2 and 3, but I was somewhere else before it. I went to Jeremiah 16 and 15. Because I was going into the judgment is going to be selective. There are going to be people that the judgment doesn't touch them the same. And I want to go to, now that I said that, let's go to Ezekiel 9. Real quick. Because that goes right with what we just read. Because this is the flip side to it too. Ezekiel 9 and 4. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of the Jerusalem. Now, in this chapter, at the top, you have the Lord is commissioning particular men, which are angels in this chapter, particular jobs during the judgment. You have one whose job is to mark those, which we're about to read in verse 4, for exemption from judgment. To mark them, to say, hey, these people are excused from suffering of the perils that are about to play out. But then you have these other angels that they're commissioned to go and judge and to smite. All right? That's their job. So that's what's getting ready to play out for many of people. All right? Ezekiel 9 and 4. When the Lord said, go unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, which is a people before a place, and set a mark. Now you get that word mark just to prove what I said. It's the awe. All right? And it's H8420. And it says a mark as a sign of exemption from judgment. So the judgment is going to be selective. And set a, this is different from the mark in Revelation 13 and 16, which is the word charagma in the Greek. All right? And set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Now the elect, what they all have in common is that they're going to be in the spirit of being vexed with this society. Because evil is uplifted here. And to love Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai is to hate evil. Have a great disdain for it. So I often will say that, man, if you're truly a believer, your soul is going to ache in the society. The majority of people, although they know that evil is going down, it doesn't grieve their spirits. They're complicit with the evil. So, in all actuality, they're accomplices, which is why the judgment is going to touch them. Somebody who's truly a believer, just the bullshit that goes on here can't sit right with you. You know, they release, particular things about the Epstein files. They're not going to give you the whole straight and skinny, but it's clear that, international pizza consumption is going on. All right. If you catch my drift, it's clear that this is accepted in the circles of the upper echelon. There's no real outrage amongst the commoners. Again, because they're complicit. Verse 5, Ezekiel 9 and 5. And to the others he said in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. He said women twice, maids and women. All right, because the women are very susceptible to evil. They can be swayed towards the flesh very easily. As the scriptures say, they're the weaker vessel, which is why they need a hedge of protection around them. They need their husbands. They need the men there. They say, hey, no, don't do that. As a guardrail. A lot of people look at the way or the standard the Lord commissioned us to have as a prison. Like a carnal person look at it, man, I can't do nothing. They'll look at it that way. But really, it's a guardrail from death. The same way your parents have rules and regulations for you. They have a curfew for you. They have a standard for you to keep. And it's not to restrict you. It's a guardrail from destruction. All right. Ezekiel 9 and 6 once more. It says, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark of exemption that we read in the 4th verse. And begin at my sanctuary, begin at those who know that they're Israelites. Then they began at the ancient men that were before the house. Okay? So we desire to be hidden the day of the Lord's anger. And, the whole thing with me having lights in the neighborhood and nobody else having it, feels good to know the Lord is looking out for you, but we got to remain in this thing for the long haul. The Lord will give you signs that you might be on the right path, but you got to stick it out. But I wanted to share that with you because the brother, put his, he said, hey man, you got to share that with the congregation because the Lord's going to be doing little things. There's things that you don't even realize that the Lord is doing for you. There's provisions that are set in place that you don't even realize. Just like I mentioned in the beginning of the lesson, a child doesn't necessarily realize all the things their parents are doing for them to make sure that they're protected, that they're safe. There's certain things that the parents don't let the child do because it's for their own protection. Hey, you need to be home by the time the street lights come on. Oh man, I just want to stay down and play with my friends. Little Billy outside to 10:30 and he got snatched up. He didn't have the provisions that you had. Some things that you may want right now that the Lord like, no, not for you. Because for you necessarily, that might be something that's destructive to you. So you got to realize, man, that you got to trust and just have faith that the Lord know what he's doing. He know what's good for you. He know what's not. All right, so the Lord going to have a hedge of protection over us, man. The angels encampeth around about them that fear him. Yeah, so it's not of our own works because we're so great. Because we have the right mindset toward the Lord. Now, of course, we're going to be rehearsing the righteous acts to the best of our ability, but it's not because we're so great. We ain't shit. And you shouldn't be in the spirit of thinking like, oh, no. You need to be trying your best. But there's nothing that you doing that justifies your salvation. It's because of Yahweh Shai. All right? That light that was shown in Goshen, it was a humiliation to the Egyptians. Right now we're in modern Egypt. And a testimony of who the, Lord has a relationship with. And symbolically pointing towards the real light that we're going to have, the real light that was to come, which was Yahweh Shai. So yeah, man, there's going to be a distinct separation in the conditions of somebody who's in the world, somebody who believes. All right, so you want to make sure that you're doing all you can, make that calling and election sure that you're on the right side of things. So I brought to Zah, man, the lesson was edifying. Got to get back to slaving. Want to give all praises once more to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Ruach HaKodesh. Want to give double honor to the apostles and the elders, great millstone. Want to say shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters pursuing this truth and sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your house. Shalom.